Forum, and then it will be the end for our 4-part series. Um, as always, we'll start off with introductions, and then we'll ask a few questions, and we'll open up for a Q&A. So if you guys could turn on your cameras if you like, and introduce yourselves. So the prompt for today's introduction is, what's your name, major, the position you're applying for, and tell us about one of your favorite EOU memories. And we'll start off with our presidential candidate, Kaylin Carvalhos.
Last name is Cevallos, but hi, I'm Caitlin Cevallos. I am a sophomore here at EOU. I am studying molecular biology with a minor in environmental chemistry. And my favorite memory of EOU, first one that comes to mind, was last year I was walking over to the garden at EOC because we were getting the community garden back together, and I went to try to jump over the little gates that separate H Avenue and G Avenue, and I fell. Pretty solid time.
Fun. Sorry for butchering your name. I'll call you Kaylin from now on. Seems a little easier. We'll move on to our senators, and we'll start with Isaac, sorry.
My computer was actually muted. I had no idea we started.
You're good. To just introduce yourself, your name, major, the position you're applying for, and then your favorite EOU memory.
I'm just turning my camera off because my internet connection is really bad. I think you asked to introduce myself in the best memory. My name is Isaac Inskill, just in case many of you don't know that. I'm a justice on our ASEOU government currently, and I'm a student here at Eastern. I'm majoring in ag entrepreneurship and minoring in economics. Hopefully, after I graduate here with my bachelor's in science, I'm going to attend law school to get my law degree. And my best memory here at Eastern, gosh, there's a lot of very interesting memories here at Eastern. It'd have to be when I almost hit someone on the way here with my car. I don't know why that's a good memory, but it's just one that comes to mind. They jumped into the road, and of course it was one of the snowy days, and I almost hit them, and that was a very exciting morning. So at least that's what comes to my mind.
What an interesting memory. So how about Julian? Introduce yourself.
Did you say me, Vitor?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I just got out of class. In terms of introductions, my name is Julian Harris, majoring in business administration with a pre-law minor. Running for Senate next year, hopefully.
All good. Now you must tell us about your favorite EOU memory.
Beginning of this year, I went on, I think, EOU East Tracks camping trip. It was kind of before the actual academic year, but I thought that was amazing. We went out to Hell's Canyon. There was, I think, a campground, something like big bar, big bench, just a bunch of students out there with Michael Hatch, I think he's the outdoor something director. Awesome experience. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the names of some of the directors, but it was just really cool being out there before it got all cold like it is now and snowing like it is. We went swimming, had a great time, and I got to meet a lot of people that I still know before the school year started, so I think that kind of eased me into Eastern Oregon's experience.
Alrighty, we'll move on to your final senator, Calvin.
Hey y'all, my name's Calvin. I'm a sophomore here at EOU. I'm running to be a senator next year. And I'm a business and communications double major, minoring in political science. And my favorite EOU memory, I'm gonna cheat, I'm gonna do two, but they're pretty similar. I was part of a couple Res Life events here called Mocktail Madness, and we were just able to get a really big group of people to come all together and have a really good time here in the dorms. And I just thought that was a really fun event, and was really cool. Even had live music at the second one, so that's one of my favorite memories from UU.
Alrighty, looks like we went through all the candidates. So now we'll move on to our first question. Tell us about a time that your judgment was tested in crisis, and how did you respond? And we'll start off with Kaylin.
I'd say crises that I've dealt with here at the school is mainly I'm the RA in Allocate right now, so we deal with a lot of quarantine and isolation people, and we don't always get well informed on that, and we get people just thrown into quarantine we don't know, and we got to make sure that they're okay, that they're getting all the needs, and we pick up their food, we pick up anything that they need. We've even done Walmart pickups for people in quarantine and isolation, so that way they're able to get all that. So it's just mainly managing all of that. I've already kind of done.
Alrighty, Calvin.
That's actually really funny, Caitlin. I was going on the same track before you even said that. Yeah, no, very similar job description and problems that I faced along with Caitlin. With being an RA myself, we have, miscommunication coming down the line and just having to fix it and make sure the people in quarantine who are suffering with this ailment of either just being quarantined or also having that and COVID are properly taken care of and their needs are met and they know what's going on, and just keeping everyone in the loop on our side. So that is one way that one thing I've responded to here at this university with crisis and whatnot.
Julian.
Visha, I didn't hear the first part of the question. I didn't. You don't mind repeating that for me, do you?
No, all good. So the first part of the question was, tell us about a time that your judgment was tested in crisis, and how did you respond?
I guess towards the beginning of this year, one of my grandparents suffered a stroke, and I think during that time, and not to bring the tempo down, I think that was kind of a personal crisis because a lot of the figures that I was leaning on towards the beginning of the year, getting introduced to EOU, or my aunt and uncle specifically, they had to leave to go down to Boise to the hospital. So I was kind of alone. Little brother was alone, and I'm just getting started at Eastern. So I have to help get him to class, and I have to deal with my own classes and keeping up in homework, trying to make it to class when I can. But I think I made it through that, and we're all happily, everyone's alive and we've recovered. And I thought that was a personal crisis moment for me.
Isaac.
So for me, a moment of crisis earlier this year. For some of you who might not know, I balance a work life, ASEOU and my school life all together, and a lot of that can come in conflict with one another. And I'm a small bail business owner here in LeGrand, and all of a sudden, and I was the only one who was able to provide that, and that meant I was having to spend lots of hours getting that stuff, getting my product to them. And then this all happened was very stressful, and so I had to spend time, sit down, figure out when I can't get there, when I can make my deliveries, and I had to do a lot of balancing and which one of these events is most important, getting my school in, getting my midterms done, making sure I studied, and making sure that I, pleasing people who I was serving and selling product to. So it was definitely a time just this past 3 months that I had to really make good judgment on what was most.
Alrighty, we'll move on to a little bit more open-ended question. So for the past 3 forums, we've heard a lot about the issues that you tend to address. Now we want to talk about how you plan to address these issues. So we'll start off with Calvin.
Well, I'll be upfront with this. I don't have that much experience in ASEOU. However, I do have a lot of experience managing conflict and trying to solve problems. And my first thing to do would be to get as much knowledge about the issues as possible, and then work from there. Communicate with all parties involved and try to get as many smart people along with me that I can have, so I can make sure I make the correct decision for everyone involved, and just make sure that we make this community and this university that we all call home a better place.
Julian.
So last forum I identified a different issue, but this time for this specific one, I can kind of explain the specific steps I'm going through within one of the groups in the Senate. We're working on kind of alleviating a little bit of stress right before Dead Week. So our alleviating stress and advertising for ASEOU, we thought that it would be, we had shot a couple ideas around, but our focus was to try to smash a car. And that's kind of what we settled on. We want to smash a car. And unfortunately, unfortunately, Eastern Oregon has safety protocols, rightfully so, in place. There's a lot of them, like getting rid of the glass and the liquids in the car, the things that are kind of fun to smash. But what we're trying to do is kind of make an event for the students of Eastern Oregon to get involved with before their most stressful week possibly at the school. And we thought that was an issue worth addressing, and tagging along with that, we thought we could advertise ASEOU and what we do. So that's just kind of an outline of one specific issue that I've worked on.
Alrighty, Isaac.
Thank you. So a certain issue that I'm really passionate about, and one that I want to spend a lot of time working on, is really fighting that fear that students have to give honest answers in classrooms and to write how they're feeling, and not give answers that their teachers want to look for, because for a lot of students, they deal with this fear that they can't express themselves as to who they are and their beliefs, even when those beliefs might disagree with either their professors, with ASEOU government. And that's really an issue for me. I want these kids to be able, and students to be able to express, their opinions, their beliefs, and to see that those beliefs and opinions aren't censored or oppressed. And one thing I only want to do is making sure that students that don't agree with those things aren't labeled as, cruel or prejudice and all these other labels that might come from not just agreeing and going with the grain here at Eastern. So for me, I want to be a voice for those students and really, fight that fear and get those people to start speaking their mind, to start speaking up in classrooms. And that's just something that's very important to me, and that's something I'm going to spend a lot of time on.
Alrighty, and Caitlin.
I really like Isaac's answer. I'm going to go just a tiny bit off track here, because what Isaac talked about, a student was actually talking to me about today. There is a student who is in one of the poetry classes, and she will tell her professor what her poems are about. Like, she wrote them, she knows what they're about, and the professor's just like, no, you're wrong. This is what your poem is about. And she's like, how do you know what my poem is about when I'm the one that wrote it? Things like that, because it doesn't fit that professor's ideology. He changed it to try to fit his own, and you get marked down if you don't. But going back on track now, depending on the issue, I'd want to get information involved. I go to certain higher ups, things that like some issues need to be addressed in different committees, like university council, university advancement, student affairs. I bring it to the appropriate place to talk about, get help, and see if ASEOU wants to make it a statement, if they want to actually the whole group be involved and try to change this, or if I just want to do it personally and try to make it the best decision that I can for the issues.
Alrighty. Since we're talking about professors, y'all kind of answered my second question, but I'll ask it anyways. Do you have any issues with any of the services that EOU provides? So this can range from Res Life, International Student Services, advising, learning center activities, and so on. It will go backwards. So Caitlin.
Yeah, I know there are certain professors I will absolutely never take a class with again. They just gave me such a horrible experience. I've had to get some deans involved with certain professors. And so there's those issues. And other things, I'm just like, we could provide more resources for our students. Like, we do have a nice array of resources. I just think that we can do more or add on to the resources that we have or bring in new ones to help further students in their time of need while in college.
Isaac.
Yeah, so I think for everyone, you face professors that you could really like, you really bond with, and then for some people, there are professors that you just can't get along with. And I'm very lucky. I've had great experiences with all my professors here on campus. I'm one of the few blessed students to have all good professors. And with Res Life, I really think that they need to be a little more open about this and about the processes at which students are being charged and the resources that students have. I really think that needs to be more transparent, in my opinion. I think we really need to work on making that more transparent. I think students knowing why, as we all know, Res Life is going to be increasing their fees, and I think students being able to hear more about that is important.
Alrighty. Julian.
I think that the three main issues or problems I've been noticing with the EOU so far, they pertain first and most importantly to me is financial aid. A lot of students I've just heard, they feel like maybe because they don't, I guess you would say outwardly, they don't represent any group that you would associate with this is hard to word, but they don't associate a group that necessarily seems diverse or different in nature, but their individual story would represent something that should permit financial aid, or they're struggling with the financial aid process at all. I feel like EOU could step it up just a little bit in terms of helping students understand the resources that they have at their hands, and then also the criteria that they are judging people based off of in terms of financial rewards. After that, I hope to work towards keeping costs down in the terms of textbooks. I've always been bothered by that. EOU is helpful to libraries specifically in terms of having resources available to assist you in maintaining and getting textbooks, but I definitely think Barnes & Noble this year specifically has been really, really bad. I noticed a lot of students didn't get the books that they ordered, 2 weeks prior to the term starting. They weren't showing up. They were showing up in bad condition. I want to work on that or talk to people who can work on that to make sure textbooks are not a huge, huge barrier for students every term. Thirdly, I think this is probably nitpicky, but dining services over the weekend, man, it's kind of hard sometimes to get in there and to have that fit in your schedule. When you're paying the amount of money you are for a dining plan, you need the weekends to be open to dining too, and I just think that's something that could be addressed. I'm at Max, I think, to the best of my belief, correct me if I'm wrong, is shut down over the weekends. And then the actual cafeteria, if you leave early in the morning because you're working, it's not open. You're going to be gone before the cafeteria is open for you to dine. And if you're getting back late at night because you're working the afternoon shift, you're going to miss dinner. So I think those things are worth addressing. And those are issues that I've seen on campus.
And Calvin.
Yeah, while I don't necessarily see any like big like issues or problems, except for what Julian just said about the cafeteria and the meal plans on weekends, I think that's something we definitely need to reform and fix. Like he said, really hard to get in there sometimes if you're working on weekends and you are paying this amount of money to get that food. I think one solution might be trying to get Max back in there on the weekends or something like that. But I think that'd be really cool. Anyways, I was just gonna say, besides that, there's no besides, yeah, there's not that many big problems I see with the university. However, I can see them getting a lot better, and I'd like to have a lot of improvement in there. And I think the best way to do that would be to increase attendance and retention with students, just so that we can get that income, we can get more people here at the university, and just have a bigger community. And I think that would really help with a lot of the issues we have. Because when I go and talk to people like Res Life or other organizations and student services, they're like, oh yeah, we'd like to do more, we'd like to do these things, but we don't have the money. And the way to get the money would be to have more students here. So I think getting more people there, because once, like, it's kind of like the cliche, when the water rises, it raises all boats. And so everyone does better. And I can really see that philosophy flourishing here at EOU with us. So yeah, I'd like to just say that.
Alrighty. So now we're gonna move to questions more specific towards your experiences at EOU / your major. So what has been the biggest struggle while EOU in regards to you successfully completing your degree? We'll start with Caitlin.
So as I said, I am a molecular biology major, and I know right now I always hear about how the biology department is kind of at heads with each other. I hear that there's a biology club. I don't see them active whatsoever. I ask information about it. I don't get anything. And so with me being a bio major, I would like to get more involved with the biology side at the school, and it just seems like I can't. So I'm more involved with my minor side for the chemistry. I'm in the chem club. I'm doing research with chemistry, but I'd like to do that with my biology side as well. Be in the bio club, be doing research on biology, things like that.
Alrighty. Calvin.
Apologies, Vitor. Can you repeat the question just one more time?
Yeah, for sure. So the question was, what was your biggest struggle while at EOU with regards to successfully completing your degree?
Wow. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that one. I will say some confusion probably about how exactly to work through my major, especially as a freshman last year. I had some really hard times figuring out what classes to take. And my spring term, I did take 1 or 2 classes that really did not help me graduate. And that could be a big waste of money if they actually proved to not help me at all. Although I think there's hopefully at least 1 or 2 valuable factors to them, including the education I got from them. But I think just making it clear to students what the requirements are for their degree. So for instance, business major and communications major, and what classes are actually valuable to it would be really very important. Just because I'm a business major and a class says BA on it, I don't need to take it. I can take it, but it's not necessary. So yeah, just making sure that students know that so that they don't waste their money and or time.
Isaac.
So I haven't run into very many issues this year as a freshman in accomplishing my major and my degree. The administrators here have been very helpful, and the ag department is really good here at Eastern. There's a lot of people you can talk to and get advice from. So anyone else who might be in the ag field, we're all very blessed, because I feel as though the ag department does a very good job here. And I would agree with Calvin. It can be very stressful to know what classes you need to take and what you don't need to take for your major. For me, just starting out as a freshman, just going through the websites and degree works and all that stuff was very intimidating because I wasn't exactly sure what I was doing. And, tutorials and stuff like that could be very helpful to students, and maybe advertising about those resources they can communicate to help navigate that would be.
You kind of cut out, Isaac, halfway through. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm not sure when I cut out, but I'll go with my ending here. Websites can be difficult to navigate through, so advertising those resources to students where they can get assistance and help is something.
Okay, so now I'm gonna ask a specific question to every candidate about one of your answers. So it's a little bit of plot twist here. So I'm gonna start with Calvin. You mentioned that advising can be hard. So do you think that your advisor could have done a better job informing you at what is going to be needed to complete your degree? And if so, how do you plan on communicating this to make sure that this doesn't happen to other students at EOU?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking it. So I actually don't think it's my advisor's fault, especially because the term that happened, I was switching advisors because I don't know. I know this is a thing in the business, our College of Business, but when you finish your freshman year, you get a new advisor who's not the freshman advisor. So it's actually one of the professors for the College of Business. And so when that was happening, they both kind of didn't know 100% where I was and what I was trying to do. So they were just like, oh yeah, Calvin, just take the reins and go. And I was like, okay, cool. And that is how the whole situation happened. So I think it would be very valuable to communicate that with possibly the advisors as well as the students, just so that everyone could be on the same page and just be like, hey, yeah, this is a problem. This is actually kind of symptomatic or systematic. So it needs to be fixed so that, yeah, like I said, people don't waste their time and or money.
Alrighty, we'll go on to Caitlin. Caitlin, you said that one of your friends had a really bad experience with one of the professors. So I guess it's a two-part question. As a student leader, how do you plan on addressing those concerns?
With addressing those concerns, I find out what professor it is, what college they are in, and I would address the dean to it. I've had to address the dean of that college before because of certain professors not upholding the standards that they should, needless to say. So I would go ahead and, with their permission, because I wouldn't want to do it without them wanting me to, I address it up to the dean, see what the deans would want to do, and talk to them and see what the best route is to take from there.
Alrighty, and Isaac, you mentioned something about rest life and the prices being inaccessible and expensive and living around campus. So I'd want to know how would you approach rest life with those issues?
So I've lived here in LeGrand for quite a while, and so I know housing is very difficult to come by here. And it's important to communicate that with Res Life by sitting down, asking the people, like, hey, can I have a conversation about this? Getting to understand from their perspective as well as why they're raising the prices, and that's important. And as a student, I would express my concerns, and I think it's really important just to sit down and talk about the issue. Really, that's the highest solution I can think of. Is you got to sit down and talk about the solution, talk about the issues from both sides, so then you can find a middle ground, build that bridge over the gap, and get solutions that are going to last a while. And it's important to just communicate, and I would just really focus on communicating with them.
Alrighty. Julian had to drop off for a class. Someone's gonna ask his question to everybody. Another curveball. Julian mentioned about meal plans being rather expensive and the operating hours the residence life has. ASEU currently has a dining services work group. So In a similar boat, how do you plan on approaching Rest Life with these issues of increasing both the housing by 3.5% and the food prices by 3.3%? And we'll start off with Caitlin.
So the other week on Thursday, Jeremy actually came to an ASEOU meeting and was discussing these changes. He didn't really discuss the rate of the changes. He was just wanting to see our ideas on how to better further the dining services. I know currently in 2 years, Sodexo's contract will be up, and we will be having more people come in and present to try to see if we should have them as their as our dining services. We could rehire Sodexo. We could go completely a different route. I talked to Jeremy about which people are doing what the prices, reworking the hours of the I'm blanking out, of the cafe and of Max Grill, because these are things that students want and need, and we should be more accessible to the students' wants and needs, especially when it comes to food, since EOU does have food insecurities.
Isaac, kind of a similar question, but slightly different.
Yeah, so when it comes to the meal plans, I really want to express my dislike for the meals not rolling over to the next term if you have leftovers, and that's something that can be very frustrating as a freshman learning a lot. And when you're already on a very tight budget, it can be very frustrating when the food that you've paid for, you don't get that food because you didn't eat it at a certain point or use them all, which is very frustrating. And I think it's important that we express that frustration. And Jeremy did come and speak at that ASEU meeting, which I was at, and they do it to kind of teach freshmen, to, make better decisions on how much food they need to eat. But at the same time, these kids are dealing with very tight budgets, and you can still do the same teaching methods, but you don't have to be, I'd almost say, stealing or take a lot of money from students. So that's definitely something I want to speak with them about.
And Calvin.
Yeah, this is a really complicated issue, and I like a couple other things. I don't have that much experience with the ASEOU side of this. However, I do have some experience from the res life perspective, and kind of like what I was going on before. They're just saying they don't have enough money to do some of these services, and because there's not enough students. So one way I think to combat this, just as a group, and I think this is just a good thing in general as well, is to try to increase attendance and retention, and just try to really increase those, because then if we do that, then there is more money going into those services, which makes it better for everyone. However, yeah, I do see quite a few problems with the meal services, and I think it'd be really good to talk to Res Life, in particular Jeremy, who I do know quite well, so it'd be good to talk to him about this and just have a good conversation as well. Yeah, and I do agree that it does need to get fixed on the weekends. There does need to be more food services on the weekends for people who are still here, even though there are a lot of people who go home or go do other stuff and leave campus. We can't forget the people who do stay, because those are also the people who more than often don't have cars to go drive to go get food off campus. So they could be stuck with limited food options. I also think it'd be really good to have a smaller meal plan overall, even smaller than the mini, because some people don't need that I think it's 7 meals per day if you average it out throughout the term. I think that's a lot of food, and if you are gone on weekends, then you don't really need that as much. So I think it'd be really cool to have a mini meal plan as well. So yeah, thank you.
Perfect. You led right to my next question, which is absolutely great. So I guess it's a 2-part question. What ideas do you have that will help improve student success through either increased enrollment, retention, or completion? The second part of the question is, what do you think is the biggest downside? What's the main cause that we're having difficulties bringing students to EOU? So how would you improve retention, and why do you think we're having a hard time retaining students? And we'll go with Caitlin.
I think in order to increase retention, we need to increase the resources that we have. Yes, we are adding new majors and, they're flashy and really nice, but we don't have the resources for students to help with those majors. We don't have the tutors to help with those new majors because we haven't had those majors at all. So we'll have to hire outside people. I know we hire people who aren't from EOU to do online classes, and they also teach at a different university, and it can be hard to get a hold of those professors as well. So in all reality, I just think we need to up the resources that we do have in order to fully provide for our students and increase intention and retention and attendance. And with that, we do it through state funding so that way we can get the money in order to jumpstart it without needing to increase student fees. And I would say downside to all of this is that with the resources that we do have, we have such a huge turnout of people coming in and then leaving for the same position just at a different school because they believe that different school can adequately provide them like the money that they deserve or things like that, better housing, better place to live at, just things along that. If we could treat our faculty and pay them what they deserve and actually make this area a place that they could afford to live on the wages that they do get, we could possibly have better resources here.
Isaac. Isaac?
I'm sorry, my internet connection is really bad. Could you move to Calvin? I'm going to go to see if that works better.
Yes, that's fine. Calvin.
Sounds good, and hope you get your internet figured out, Isaac. So yeah, I just jotted down a couple things that just came to the top of my head that I've been talking about a lot. And the first way I think that we could actually build a bigger income or attendance of students is building another res hall. And this, of course, is not a short-term thing. This is a farther down the line, but I've actually heard quite a few people bring this up. And there used to be a res hall here called Hunt Hall, which essentially was more of a traditional, from what I understand, a traditional dorm rooms, kind of similar to like an OSU style, where it's just like the single room and then communal bathrooms. But being able to build another hall that is less expensive, and then maybe we can also make that a any class dorm. So it could be, you could have freshmen, you could have upperclassmen, and do that to also alleviate some pressure from the community's housing. So off-campus housing is becoming really expensive because there's very little supply and there's not really that much growth right now because most of the businesses or most of the construction companies are elsewhere building stuff like Bend, Oregon, or Boise, Idaho, which are towns that are really booming. So it's not worth it for them right now to be building in LeGrand. So I think another res hall where we can fit quite a few students and have it as a cheaper option would be a really great idea. Another thing I think that we can do either just as individuals or as active members of our community and as senators and or presidents here is to build the social media presence of clubs and stuff like ASEOU. That's one way to really bring in attendance here to the community or to the campus. And one thing that really pops out to me is the women's lacrosse club. I don't know if you guys have looked at like their Instagram page, but it has been booming. It's only been like a year and they have, I believe, 4-digit followers. I think they're right above 1,000. I could be wrong, but they're somewhere around there. So I think just building social medias and being able to get that like grassroots support from the students so that other people who are like high school seniors and non-traditional students who are looking into coming here like see that there's like active people and they're excited and really just saying how much they like being here at EOU. I think that'd be a great way. And I think as ASEOU people, we can really try to push that. Going on to retention, like Caitlin said, increase resources for what we have. That's always a good thing. I think we should always try to push for that. And she went a little bit deeper into it than I will right now, but she brought up a great point with that. I think building out the campus some more, like I said with the Hunt Hall idea, just having more buildings and whatnot. I think the field house is going to be really cool and will really help with retention here in the future once that's finally finished. Clubs, like this has been brought up a couple times in our meeting, but just having more clubs here and the clubs that we already have, having them be more active. I know there's quite a few clubs that are kind of inactive with just a couple members not doing much, but really being able to like build their social media presence, being able to build their presence on campus, and having people who are interested in that kind of stuff go and do that or join them. And then that's a great way for them to interact and stay tied to EOU and keep them here. And then the last note I have is just building ties with the community. I think this is really important. I definitely see right now like a division between EOU and LeGrand/Island City. Like I think we just need to be able to really communicate with the businesses, really get those strong ties, and make sure that everyone feels like it's one town. It's not LeGrand and then EOU. It's all just LeGrand. So I think that we just really need to build that tie with the community, and people will like the town more. So yeah, those are my points. And yeah, thank you.
Alrighty, Isaac, how's our internet doing right now?
Can you guys hear me clearly? Okay, could you repeat the question just for me, Vitor?
Yes, so it's a two-part question. So what ideas do you have which will improve student success through either increased enrollment, retention, or completion? And the second part of the question is, what do you think is the major cause that EOU is having a hard time retaining students?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to resources, for me, I think the way to help students succeed more is we need to advertise a whole lot more about the resources that students have. I think a lot of students just don't know about these resources. And so they go, throughout the year with these struggles, and then they find out maybe later, oh, wow, there is this resource that can help me and assist me. And they find that out just from word of mouth from other students. But I think Eastern could really step up its game by, advertising these things, and the social media presence is important for the school to be like, hey, come here on the weekends to get help on this and all that. So I think maybe not focusing so much, but increasing the resources, but, advertising about the resources we have, because I feel like they address a lot of the issues students are having, but just a lot of students don't know about it. And it is true that Eastern has been, this is the second part, Eastern is dealing with a deficit in enrollment. And I think the main reason that is we need to realize the kind of community that we are in. Eastern seems to, when it comes to very delicate and important issues such as diversity, equity, and inclusion, look through those with a very critical lens. And that lens really doesn't allow for opinions that a lot of people within Union County and LeGrand agree with. Just from talking to people in the foundation, just in the past few years, Eastern has lost millions of dollars in scholarships through the foundation because of the policies we have here about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we need to start, opening our minds and letting more different ways of dealing with these issues come in, because if we can't keep that community support, we're going to be losing that funding that Eastern needs to continue giving students a really good education here. So I think opening our minds and opening our eyes to these different ways of thinking, not demonizing or ostracizing the people that have that, is important for the success of students and to increase enrollment here at Eastern, because a lot of parents don't want to send their kids to a place that might, teach them to see things one way when their parents have raised them another way. So that's really something we need to focus on.
Hey, Vitor, I need to apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't finish. I completely forgot about the second part of the question. Can I answer that now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, guys. So some major causes for leaving, at least from my personal experience, especially last year as a freshman in the halls, was, I think the number one reason was the community, and there's not much that we can change about that, but it is a small town. I mean, I think LeGrand's population sits right between 10 and 15,000. If I'm right, it's like 25 or 12, 50, sorry, like 12,000. Anyways, so I think that's one big reason, but we can always try to increase our involvement with the town, and maybe that will help or increase or also like advertise businesses and things to do here. Also like some stuff like Mira and just things for people to do, because I think that's the root of the big problem with it being a small town and people saying there's like not that much stuff to do. Another thing is cost. Not much. I don't think we can do with this one. I mean, of course, I think the biggest thing would be fixing res life, and the meal plan costs would be really good. But I think that's a big reason for people to leave. And then the third one, I think, is the biggest one with retention is online classes. I'm really starting to feel this as a business major, and I wasn't expecting this, but the majority of classes that are 300 and 400 level in my major are online, and there's no option for it to ever be in person. That's not even because of COVID. That's just because they just have them online. And so I think that could be a real reason. I've talked with a lot of people who are transferring to places like OSU or U of O or other larger universities is because they want to have that in-person class, but they can't have that here, and there's no chance of them having it. So I think that's probably my biggest reason that I think a lot of people in like the business major are leaving after like their sophomore year. Thank you.
Alrighty, so we're running out of time. I'm opening this up to Q&A, which we've received a few questions. So the Q&A question says, diversity issues are a hot topic on campus right now. However, a lot of these issues are placed on the multicultural or queer people in those departments to fix it themselves. How would you get involved and propose solutions to these issues? And it's open to all, so we'll start with Caitlin.
So with this question, I just think that we need to increase our diversity department. Like, it shouldn't just be all on people of color or people that are a part of the LGBT community, because with that, you're not being completely diverse. You're focusing it into two groups. So I think we need to actually increase the diversity that we have and get people that have different races, ethnicities, and ideologies to actually make our diversity department more diverse. Because I know we have a big turnover with our diversity department right now, and either 40% about 40% has left EOU for different universities.
Isaac.
So yeah, I think it's important that if we're going to encourage diversity, we need to have diversity on all spectrums. We have to make sure that all different people, all different kinds of thought, all people should be allowed to express their opinions. And I think that's important. Yes, we have put a lot of pressure on people who are Black and part of the LGBTQ community to run the Diversity and Multicultural Center. And I think advertising that place is not just for them, but it's for everyone else is important. I think that's how we get the ball rolling when it comes to diversity.
And Calvin.
One thing that comes to my head first off is just having or trying to encourage clubs to really tackle this and getting like the creation of new clubs. I was talking to a couple people, and they were thinking about starting a either Black or African American club. They're still working on the title, so I don't know which one they're going to pick yet. But I think that'd be really cool. I know recently, kind of going off what Isaac was saying, there was an ideology, or like there should be a diversity on ideology, and a Turning Point was recently started here at EOU. And I think it'd be really cool if there was some sort of left version of that, say a Democrats club. I don't know any political clubs over there, but I'm just going to use that word. So I just think it'd be really cool to have clubs kind of be created and step up and do that as one option. So yeah, thank you.
Alrighty. My final question for you all is, do you have any other time commitments for the next year? If so, how long did it take, and would they interfere with the position that you're applying for? And we'll start with Isaac.
Yes, I do have other time commitments. Of course, I have a job and a business that I'm running. And of course, I am involved in a few other clubs here on campus, such as Turning Point and the Ag Entrepreneurs Club. But they have never conflicted this year with anything I've had to do for ASEOU as a justice, and I will make sure that they don't conflict next year as a senator.
Kaylin.
I am currently a RA and I am reapplying for the position. Occasionally, I have had a conflict with RA and ASEOU with like a Senate meeting, but with that, I'll be at my RA thing while also zooming into the Senate meeting and paying attention to both. That's the only thing I've ever had happen. Usually, the RA doesn't interfere with it. And then I am a part of a couple other clubs on campus. They don't usually interfere at all. They only meet like a couple times a month. And I also do a little bit of research, but I've only done it once or twice a month so far. So no interference so far.
And Calvin.
Yep, I'm currently an RA. However, I am not reapplying for the next year. Next year, I will have a job, but I will make sure that that does not interfere with this position. And let's see. Oh, I'm involved with a couple of clubs, but like Caitlin said, not the most active. Couple times a month will not get in the way, and a couple other extracurricular activities as well, but those will not get in the way of me being a senator. Thank you.
Alrighty, well, I'd like to thank everybody for attending our forum. Thank you, AV, for recording this and live streaming this. This will be posted on YouTube and it will be shared to our ASEOU page. I want to remind all the candidates our final forum will be held February 23rd at 4 p.m. So be there or be square. And yeah, so thank you everybody for coming. I hope you all have a good rest of your day.